Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the May meeting of the Suffolk Schools Forum. My name is Alison Coleman. Also present in the meeting today are Amanda Havers, Andrew Berry, Councillor Andrew Reid, Colin Shaw, Darren Woodward, Daniel Jones, Councillor Debbie Richards, Gemma Morgan, Gordon Jones, Jacqueline Dyer, Julia Granger, Michael Quinton, Mike McKeveney, Paul Firkin, Rowena Mackey, Robert Lenko, Ruth Coleman, Sonia Harben, Stephen Dewing, and Teresa Spilling. So welcome everyone very much to this meeting today. We have had apologies from Angelo Goducci and also from the newly elected member from the academy sector, Anna Mears, who is head teacher of Castle East School, but unfortunately she is unable to be with us for her first meeting today. During the meeting, it's helpful if you could keep your cameras off and your microphones off, unless you are introducing an item, making a point or asking a question. And then it's also helpful if you are able to turn your cameras on, and please introduce yourselves before speaking. Thank you very much. So over to the agenda, and the first item on the agenda is paper A, the minutes of our last meeting, which was held on the 9th of January. And if we could go through for accuracy and matters arising page by page, please. So please shout out if there's anything you wish to raise from page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. There were not any actions from the last meeting, so it was a case of if there were any points of accuracy anybody wanted to raise, but nobody has shouted out, so we will note those as an accurate reflection of our last meeting. Thank you. So we can now move on to the next item, which is the DSG outturn update. I'll hand over to Sonia for that. Thank you.
Thanks, Alison. Good morning, everybody. My name is Sonia Harben. I'm the CYP Strategic Finance Lead, working with the CYP leadership team. So a fuller report will be provided to Forum at the next meeting. Myself and Mike Quinton are still finalising the Cabinet Finance report. But as an overview, the overall DSG budgets were overspent by 46.985 million. This is broken down into 48.261 million overspend against the high needs block, which Gemma details most of that in her paper, and an underspend against the schools block of 1.277 million. This is mainly as a result of less than budgeted for growth, which was about 900 million less than budgeted for. And we know that's an emerging issue, especially in the primary pupils, and the balance of the underspend being where the cost of rates for schools are less than being expected in year. The high needs block overspend of 48.261 million, which is offset by the 2.657 million schools block transfer agreed by Schools Forum previously. That does mean that the current high needs block deficit now stands at about 101.3 million, and a debt whose costs is funded through core funding. So that the actual cost of servicing that debt falls to core, and on its own that would be about 6 million a year. It's not quite that because we've got other funding that offsets that debt at the moment. Will be moved Schools Forum, so we can look at that later on in the financial year. 24-25 accounts closure, there was just under £800,000 of early years DSG, which has also been moved to reserves in anticipation of the expected recoupment that is made in July by the DfE. As those who have sort of listened to me say this every year for the last few years, the actual funding for the year includes an adjustment made based on the census count in January. So as in previous years, if this is if the adjustment is different to what we've moved, there should be the opportunity to distribute back to providers in this financial year, and we normally agree that in the sort of October forum when we've got the figures ready for that. So that's just a very brief overview of where we're at. So I don't know if there's any questions anybody's got at that at the moment.
And I haven't had any hands come up, and I haven't seen anything in the chat, so thank you, Sonia. I think
no problem.
That's great as your update. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to the next item, which is paper B, the high needs funding paper. And Mike McKeveny, I believe you're going to introduce the paper for us. Thank you.
That's right. Morning, colleagues. I'm Mike McKeveny. I'm the Assistant Director, Inclusion and SEND. New to post, as you probably know, I have been working with Gemma on the high needs funding situation that we're in at the moment. Gemma has the specifics, and I'll take us through the paper, but I'll be around to answer questions as well at the end. Thank
you, Mike. Gemma, over to you.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning, everybody. I'm Gemma Morgan. I'm the Head of SEND Funding and Provider Services. My paper is the same as the one I present this time of the year every year. It's the opportunity to demonstrate to Schools Forum where we finished the end of the 24-25 financial year and then the forecasting for the year ahead. So I know that you've looked at the paper, but I will just run through it with you and just highlight aspects of it. So you'll see from the first table on paragraph 8, we spent £149,000, £149 million, sorry, this last financial year, which was an increase of 31 million on the year previous to that. And that has meant that our end, as Sonia's just mentioned, that our end of year position is £48,729 million overspent. So this is, you can see from the table, this is an increase in spend mainly due to top-up funding, so across all of our mainstream and specialist settings, an increase in those in independent settings, and also an increase in those who are receiving bespoke packages. As I've explained previously, the independent and bespoke are our most costly provisions, and the ones that we go to when there aren't spaces or suitable places within the local offer. The paper goes on to explain how much of a growth we've seen. So in the last 4 years, we've seen a growth of 51% of the use of costly, independent, non-maintained special schools. And as I've explained before, the demand for SEND continues to grow, and we currently have just over 10,000 EHCPs, which is a year-on-year growth of a considerable amount. I think we've gone up by 15.2% since the previous year. So that continues to grow. Therefore, we continue to have a high demand on the high needs block, and the funding that we use to support children with SEND. As part of the next financial year, as part of 25-26, which we're now into, we have done some early forecasting work. I mean, this is done on trajectory data that we work with the iHub on. It also looks at the EHCP trajectories, and it also looks at the spend over the previous 4 to 5 financial years. And we are predicting a further overspend of £63.5 million, which will result in an overall DST deficit of over 160 million. Because as Sonia explained earlier, we're currently at just over 101. So we've predicted how we think that money will be spent. Again, the majority of it will be on those costly, independent and bespoke packages, with also an increase on the top-up funding as the demand continues to come through the system. The tables on pages 4 and 5 show that the demand continues to grow, the number of places continue to grow. We were, as many of you know, we work with all of our providers to get as many places within our special schools and our small groups and units so that we can deliver provision to children within the local offer and within the local area. We have just had some capital funding agreed for us to spend that on more specialist placements within new units attached to mainstream schools, and also expansions of our existing special schools. So we're looking at satellites of our existing special schools, which should give us between 100 and 260 places across the next 2 to 3 academic years. So we're working with our providers on that. It's early days, but we're hoping to get at least 100 places open by September 25. All of that will hopefully relieve some pressure on the high needs block. The other aspect that the paper touches on is around high needs top-up funding for autumn term. So again, every year I like to give you an update on the growth in requests for new high needs funding within the mainstream sector. So we've had in autumn term 24, we had 1,327 requests for new bands. So this is for children who have never received high needs funding before. So year on year that grows, and the table at the bottom of page 5 shows how that's grown from, and it's now at 22% since last year. So slightly less than last year, but still a large number, and a huge amount of requests coming through the system on a year by year basis. The paper also draws your attention to the fact that we as a local authority, which is unusual compared to other LAs, we pay high needs funding, so banded values, to children who are on SEN support and do not have EHCPs. This is only in mainstream settings. And from the table in paragraph 27, you can see that 65% of the children receiving high needs funding in mainstream schools do not have an EHCP. So obviously that equates to 54% of the funding. So just under £13.5 million is given to schools for SEN support children without an EHCP. We are looking to see if we can, Mike has mentioned earlier, him and I are working on the high needs, but we're looking across the whole system to see whether we can identify any economies that can be made in our funding, to see whether we can make any savings moving forward. We're doing some additional work on the deficit management plan to look at what how we can manage that better moving forward. I've discussed this briefly already with the High Needs Working Group, but any changes that will be made will be discussed with the High Needs Working Group, which is a subgroup of Schools Forum, and also anything and everything will go through the consultation process. So at the moment, there isn't an updated deficit management plan. So the version from the last meeting stands. I am just going through I'm just going through the process of working with, we've got a consultant in who's supporting me with making sure that we've got a really good, robust and up-to-date deficit management plan. So as soon we can share that outside of the meetings, it doesn't need to wait for the next one, but as soon as it's updated, then I'll make sure that I've shared a copy with this group. I've just seen in the chat that so we have a representative from academies, FE, mainstream schools. So in answer to your question, Stephen, so we have so we've got a academy rep, an FE rep, a maintained school rep, a primary school rep, and a senior school. So we have a representative of everybody of the representative groups that sit on Schools Forum. So I hope that answers your question, Stephen. I can give you a list of names. I haven't got it off the top of my head, but I happily can share that information.
And if this group feel it would be helpful to see the minutes of the High Needs Working Group, there's no reason why they couldn't be circulated. We just don't want to bombard you with paper unnecessarily, but that is possible if people would feel that would be helpful.
I think we actually publish them on the Suffolk Learning website, but I will double check. I think we do.
And there's another query from Darren there as well, Gemma.
Yes. So the growth in yes, please.
Yes.
That'd be brilliant. Thank you, Alison.
The growth in independent placements is enormous. Some I know could be partly a rising cost charged. Are there particular provisions that SEC doesn't have, and hence using independent, that it would save money here if able to open itself?
So I think there are some of our independent providers that provide something that we don't have in our local offer, and we will always have a reliance on those providers. But the majority is because it's the volume, and that we need those independent spaces because we haven't got them within our existing special schools and units.
Darren, does that answer your question, or do you want to come in and with a follow-up? Okay, but thank you in the chat, so I think that's answered.
Thanks, Darren.
Mike, you've come on screen. Is there anything you would like to add?
No, just to endorse everything that Gemma said, and to add to Darren, whole system, will be an iterative exercise that will all work through together.
People as well, Mike. Was it just my end that it was breaking up, or
no? I didn't hear that either, Mike.
Mike, could you just repeat again?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
A good link to you, I'm afraid.
I must have some bad Wi-Fi here today. It's just in response to Darren's question, as part of the whole system review, we're going to look at provision and what's available. It'll obviously be iterative, and so will involve as many stakeholders and partners as we can.
Super, thank you, Mike. Gordon, you've got your hand up.
I have indeed. Good morning, everybody. I'm Gordon Jones. I'm from Academy Rep. Gemma, thank you for that update. And looking forward, before I look forward, I just want to thank you and all the team, both within the centre and on for the work you do on these continuing challenging times. Both with regard to demand and finances. And then looking forward on the finances, as you indicated, there'll be a projected deficit of 164 million come the end of this current financial year. Currently, that's agreed that can be off balance sheet. That agreement, I think, comes to an end at the moment, at the end of the financial year, so would actually come onto the balance sheet. What work is the council, the LGA doing to get some clarity on going forward? Bearing in mind, I imagine the county would want clarity by about November, because that's when you've got to do finalise or the first draft of your budgets.
I see Councillor Andrew Reid has put his hand up. Andrew, did you want to come in on this point, or?
Yes, thank you. And thank you for your question, Gordon. And you're absolutely right. This is very much in the forefront of our minds. And we are in constant touch with government with respect to this particular issue. and conscious that they are soon going to be releasing their review, their wholesale review of SEND provision, which we fully expect will include how this particular issue can be resolved, taking into account the time frame that you've just mentioned. Mike, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
No, I don't think so, Andrew. But also, you know, this coming onto the balance sheet is something that will affect all local authorities, and I think there are many representations going to the DFE and the Treasury about another extension of non-appearance on balance sheet. But once we find out, we'd obviously report back to Schools Forum.
But actually, just keeping it off, coming back on there, just keeping it off the balance sheet is not the answer to the problem. Some additional financial data came in overnight to showing that the black hole is increasing. Well, it seems to be increasing exponentially. And I'm not so sure the SEND.
So the question is,
I'm not so sure the SEND white paper will necessarily address
Gordon,
the
is what are we going to do about it?
Yeah. I mean,
well, you'll see in the paper that we've submitted. Sorry, you've asked me the question, Gordon. If I could answer it, please. You'll see in the paper that Gemma has submitted that we are looking at ways of increasing expenditure in the high needs funding block. That means we will be able to reduce the overall capital spend going forward. Now, we've only started this work in the last 6 weeks, and it's going to take a lot longer for us to figure out where efficiencies can be saved. We also have to make sure that the white paper has gone through Parliament, because there's no point in suggesting changes if the regulations and guidance all change. So it will be in train this year for next financial year.
Thank you, Mike. I recognise that you're recently in post, but I think those of us around Schools Forum table, some of us have been here for a decade or two already and have seen this problem grow without any way of resolving it. So that's where our concern comes from. It's not that we're challenging you, that it's your, the fault of the team. It is our concern that there hasn't been acknowledgement from central government funding about the fact that we have need in Suffolk. We're very low funded in Suffolk, and it's almost as if this has been imposed on us just because of the funding formula, not because of anything we have done, given that our spend on SEND is typically average. It's not that we've been wasteful in the way we've spent money on SEND as far as it's been presented to us so far. So Sonia, your hand is up next.
Yeah, thanks, Alison. I just wanted to sort of agree with what sort of Gordon said as well, in that it's very difficult to plan financially, because, as I said earlier, that increasing debt is actually a cost to core funding. So as part of our budget setting, we have to then account for that. And for every sort of additional 10 million that we have to borrow, it costs us about, I think it's at the current interest rates, it's just shy of £700,000. So it's a significant increase on the council's core funding. And it is a real difficulty. And I think we are now sort of less than a year until the override theoretically ends. And it is a real challenge for us. And I think with even though I'm supporting Mike and Gemma with sort of, some of the reviewing on how we can reduce our ongoing overspend, I am really concerned, and I know the Section 151 officer is concerned about how we can actually reduce that level of debt, because even if we're able to reduce our in-year overspend, with the best will in the world, that we're not going to be able to draw back, even the 100 million that we've got as a debt now. So I think we I do agree with Gordon. I'm not sure what the government is going to be able to do as part of the revision and the white paper that's coming out, that we'll actually get rid of that debt, which I can't. It's billions, as we know, and it is a very worrying time. So I just wanted to sort of, share that it's not just a schools forum problem. It is most definitely a council problem, because we have to service that debt, and as council reserves reduce, that sort of then the costs of that debt start to increase further.
Thank you, Sonia. Robert, your hand is next. Thank you.
Morning, everybody. My name's Robert Lenko. I'm a governor at Thurston Community College. And again, like Gordon, I just want to thank the team for doing just an amazing job with just horrific figures, but we won't go there. I'm just interested in paragraph 13, where it ends that Suffolk is the second lowest out of 11 similar counties. And I was just interested in the phrase, there may be further future need in population and or existing unrecognised need. And I just wonder, what is unrecognised need? Because I would have thought the need would come to you. Can you just expand on that a bit for me? What your guess might be as to our unrecognised need?
Yeah, we have a number of groups across the county that mask what they have. I'm thinking particularly, and this is in the Joint Needs Assessment Report, there are nationally as well here that there are a group of girls mask some of the additional needs that they have. So it's really unpacking all of that, and if we do find that there is undiagnosed need, particularly in the neurodivergent area, then that will increase our overall responsibility to provide support for them.
Thanks very much, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Jane, you're next. Thank you.
Good morning, colleagues. Sarah Jane Smedmore. I'm the Executive Director for Children and Young People Services at Suffolk County Council. And it's always difficult, Chair, because of course our comments are not coming necessarily following the last question, but I just wanted to reiterate great work by the team, really helpful questions from Schools Forum around the money, and just to come alongside Councillor Reid and what was said. What's really important is that we make sure we individually consider each child's needs as they come to us as well, work with each of our schools individually. The money is absolutely something we need to keep a really close attention to, and we're very lucky we've got colleagues such as Sonia and Gemma to do that, but we've got to also make sure we are responding to children's needs as they need us to. So our graduated approach, our sufficiency plans, all of that continue whilst we're also having these conversations with DfE, with government around the money, and we're very lucky Councillor Reid is championing our position in that space too. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Reid.
Yeah, thank you. I think Sarah Jane's covered it really from my perspective, but we continue to lobby government both directly and through the F40 group around our funding levels, and that work will continue until things change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a challenging position, and it has been for a long time. I really don't know what the answer is. Gordon, come back to you once more.
Yes, I've just come back. I may get the wrong impression, but some people seem to be a little bit more relaxed about the deficit than I certainly would be. We've already had history where we were told that the national insurance increase in national insurance were going to be fully funded. They clearly haven't been fully funded. The grants are going up less than the projected increases in teachers' salaries. So I think that the warning signs are all there. The sort of indication that it will be kept in the long grass which it is at the moment, which is probably quite appropriate. Now we're in May, but it's I would be on the side of the finance team and extremely worried about the the picture going forward in the coming months.
Well,
Just
I think,
observation.
sorry, can I just come in there, Alison? I think I share that concern, but this is something that a large number of local authorities have been lobbying government, and they have said that they hear what we say. So we have to see where we go with this, Gordon.
Well, I hear what you say, Andrew, but a large number of people were lobbying on the the pension item. People have been lobbying left, right, and centre, and have got nowhere so far. Sorry to be a pessimist.
Well, I know you.
I think we can all feel pessimistic about this topic, I'm afraid, because we haven't made headway for a very long time. But let's at least wait. We'll see what the government announcement on SEND is this summer. It could be more imminent than not. I'm hearing different reports about when the announcement might be, and then hopefully at least we'll know what position we're in to then go forward and tackle it some more. But I think at least the fact is we're acknowledging that it is a very difficult position and that there are not any easy answers at the moment, and we've just got to keep working at it as best we can. So on that note, I think we'll wrap up this item for today. Thank you all, and I'll just echo my thoughts of others to Gemma, you and your team, and Mike coming on board, that I know you're all doing your very best to try and find a way through this difficult situation. Thank you.
Thanks, Alison. Thank you, everybody.
So we don't have any other business for today, so that just leaves paper C, the forward agenda. Our next meeting is on the 3rd of July, when we will have the paper, as mentioned earlier, about the DSG outturn for school budgets, another SEND update, and also about early years funded entitlements. So that's what we've got to look forward to on the 3rd of July. So unless anybody suddenly wants to mention anything else now, I will wrap up the meeting and thank you all and wish you all a very good day. Thank you all. Bye.